Warning, this podcast has stories of real-life events and true crime that happens every day. These stories may contain adult language and graphic or disturbing details not suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
132 in Bush, I've got him at gunpoint. Check your missiles, we're going to pull evacuation out this side. They're pulling them out.
911, advise ready for camp.
God!
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I don't know. I just got tired of saying it the same way every time, so I just thought I'd go different.
That's Thomas. I'm Chuck.
Well, we've said it the same damn way every time that it's almost like I'm almost like sick of hearing myself say it.
Yeah, I was thinking about something. It's funny that you just did that because I was like, you know what, I should change it up and just like throw some fucking like first down vibes, like, woo, just something stupid. I don't know. I could grab my donut too and just like look through it next time. I don't know, just something. We've been doing the same shit for 4 years, 5 years. So
yeah,
the same way.
So far, so good. As of we had an episode come out, and then we dropped a live episode that night. After our hiatus because of babies and honeymoons and all that stuff. And that was a month ago now, I think. This time travel stuff's messing me up. But what I'm hoping, and we'll see, those of you that are hearing this episode will see, because we're going to talk to our guest about having them come on, because we had a really good time on our live episode where we had our guest from that day's episode come on. That was the first time we had done that.
It worked really well.
I had fun. I like that. I think that's like, if we have interesting guests that are willing to come on to the live show and be real and raw and all that other crazy stuff, we should try to make that a thing if we can. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely, especially when Matt's out, or if one of us is out, like me or Marco or shit you, we can always bring a guest on that, and when their episode drops, we just got to coordinate it logistically. Yeah. But that worked out really well, and I was very surprised. And not to mention, he big dicked us all with the most subtle thing,
dude.
That big ass trident, the Navy SEAL freaking trident and eagle and shield behind. I'm like, come, really, dude? I was like, that's awesome as shit, and I'm jealous. And he just basically showed us all up. I was like, wow.
You know what's funny is Marco, because I think he's been around us for so long. He was excited. He thought it was cool, but he was not like, I know so many guests that have been on the show. I know so many friends I have. If they had been on with Senior Chief Ty Smith, they would have been fangirling out, right?
Oh yeah.
And Marco was like busting his balls a little bit. Like, it was good. It was fun.
It was great. Yeah.
So
awesome. He's a great guest.
So I think here's what you got to see. You'll see that the War Stories episodes are coming out on our podcast feed. They're also coming out on our YouTube feed. But the live episodes are only under the live section of our YouTube feed right now. So if you want to catch the live show, you can catch it live when we broadcast it, or you can go back and listen to it or watch it later on the live feed on our YouTube channel. But that's kind of where this is all living now. So as we've progressed and as we made changes, I think it's kind of just the easiest way moving forward, because it's not a lot of double work. But anyway, that's just business stuff. I guess we just have to ask our guest today if he's willing to do the same thing. And I'm going to tell you, in all of our guests, this is the absolute most bananas cool. Like, I'm praying, because I'm going to ask him. I haven't asked him yet. I'm praying that this is the name his parents blessed him with on his birth certificate.
Maybe he's retired. He's related to Enzo.
Because the fact that you can, let's say we have a retired NYPD cop on today's episode. We have a retired NYPD cop who has been a detective for the NYPD on this episode. he is also now an author, and an all around seemingly cool guy. But how cool! Nobody would believe you if I went back to the movie business and I pitched them the show. I'm gonna say, all right, the show is called, ladies and gentlemen, Vic Ferrari. They would not believe me. They would say, no. We are not writing a television show about an Italian NYPD detective named Vic Ferrari. This is not, and I'm like, no. I know the guy. I could, right? Like, this is what I'm saying. Nobody would believe me. Vic, is that your Christian name? Catholic?
No, I'm half Irish. My name's John. When I got into writing, after I retired from the NYPD, I really wasn't willing to put myself out there. I really had no intention of doing podcasts or radio interviews. So I said I needed a cool name. And I worked in the auto crime division for 10 years. And growing up in the 70s, the television show Taxi was on. And Latka would take Andy Kaufman's character, when he would take a blow to the head, would become Vic Ferrari. And he would bust everyone's balls. So I went with that name.
Good old Andy Kaufman.
Wow.
Crazy.
Sorry to disappoint you guys.
No, you know what? That's the thing. I'm going, it's too good to be true. That's the author name, right? But there was the little part of me that really did hope that your parents had named you Vic Ferrari, because that's just too cool for school. But
I was more like, oh, dude, is he related to Enzo? I was like, that's a great grandfather.
No, well, you're probably
came back from Italy.
You're probably too young to remember Taxi.
Yeah, no, I remember the remake with Jimmy Fallon, and I think
that's no. This is the TV show Taxi.
Yeah.
No, I didn't never watch it.
Christopher Lloyd in that oh man, before he was Doc Brown, Danny DeVito before he was anybody, and Andy Kaufman was so weird, and anyway, go watch Taxi. It was a great show. Long story short, Vic Ferrari, ladies and gentlemen, Detective Vic Ferrari of the NYPD. So should we call you Vic or should we call you John?
Now call me Vic. We'll go with it.
All right.
Yeah.
Love it.
You forgot. He's also
I was going to get this. Go ahead. This is where
podcast host of Through the Looking Glass podcast, NYPD Through the Looking Glass podcast.
So, Vic, what? Let's go backwards. What is the Through the Looking Glass podcast?
It's a podcast I started about 2 years ago, and I bring on retired members of the New York City Police Department, and similar to what you guys do, we exchange war stories and talk about our time on the job, and it's kind of blossomed. I've had FBI agents on. I've had a couple of reformed gangsters on. I wanted to see how they looked at life through the other side of the fence. Had a lot of different cops on from different police departments. So it's kind of growing with my guest list. It initially was NYPD guys, and I don't know how it is with you guys with the LAPD. NYPD guys are very reluctant to do interviews, to come on camera. I had friends listen, love your show. I'll watch every episode, and I'm not putting myself out there. So it was like pulling teeth initially. And what I figured out was I started bringing on guys that wanted to promote something, guys that wrote a book, guys that got a podcast, someone that's got a business that they want out there, that they'll ship something. And then once people realize I'm not going to bust cops' balls or put them on the spot with things, then they started, how cops are. And they slowly but surely, I've started to build a guest list.
Yeah, I can tell you from LAPD's perspective, it's the same. They do not want to come on. I've talked to numerous people, especially when I was on duty working before I retired. And there were so many detectives, and I knew they were retiring. So I was like, hey, do you want to come on? They're like, fuck no. And then they're, to ask other people who've been involved in some hellacious shit, like, would you like to come on and talk about that? He's like, absolutely not. They've all said no. Even friends are like, no, because they are afraid of being scrutinized by the department for saying something and it being taken out of context or taken out of turn, and them now having to go to court or to get whatever, or crucified by the department.
I will give you a two examples of this that you'll understand, Vic. Early on in our show, when I first started doing this, Chuck was the longtime friend of my original co-host. The first couple episodes started, my co-host and I had met, had thought of this idea. I'm like, you should do this with me, right? You're good at this stuff. And then we had his father on, because his father's retired LAPD, as our first guest. And so we sat down. Yeah. And so we sat down for 3 hours, and we each had an hour to talk about whatever. And then we cut that 3-hour story session into 3 episodes of me talking, him talking, and his dad talking. Long story short, we got a lot of our friends from our agencies to agree to do the show because, number one, there were no cameras. It was not online. It was not on YouTube. It was just audio, and it was only us sitting around a table in our friend's house with microphones talking to each other, and then they kind of forget that they're being recorded. But I would always tell them, we're not going to use real names. We're going to use nicknames, and we're not going to mention agency names. We could get people we knew who trusted us, that we weren't going to do anything that would burn them or screw them over, right? But even then, I can tell you 2 people in particular, and I won't mention their names because I don't have permission to share any of this, so I will be as non-specific as I could. One of them had already retired, and he was a very high-profile member of the tactical community and a member of a very high-profile unit at a very famous department. And he was discussing a call that he had been on. And in the actual episode that doesn't exist anymore, you can hear him talking about back then. He goes, yeah, and back then the description came out male Negro. And he is retired, and he had people from that department and that unit calling him and yelling at him for sounding so racist. And it was insane.
Yeah.
And then one more person who went and sued their department, very high profile department, very high profile lawsuit, went and sued their department. And when testifying on the stand, the lawyer for the department brought up his appearance on our show in court as if it was going to undermine any of his credibility or testimony.
Yeah.
So we get it.
Yeah.
I completely understand how NYPD cops have been reluctant to come on because they don't want to get
But here's the thing. I'm retired now 18 years.
Wow.
The guys I've been around have been out 18 years or more.
Yeah.
So,
well, then you just tell them the statute of limitations is passed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and just like you, I don't, when we're talking about other people, we don't mention their names.
Right.
And we won't a lot of times because it's unfair if 2 guys are talking and then you bring a third person into the conversation that didn't agree to be a part of this. So I get that, but it's just, I'm out a long time.
Yeah. My father has been out. My father's been out since 1997, and there are still stories that he is hesitant to talk about with anybody but me.
Yeah.
So, and it's, it was LAPD from 1971 to 1997. A lot happened,
Yeah. Same with my dad. Anyway. He won't talk about half the shit. He gets to be very vague about it. And you're like, come on, dude.
But what's funny is I've described my dad's method, that the way that cops used to handle domestic violence calls. I've talked to women nowadays, and I'm like, you know how cops used to do it back in my dad's day? And they go, what? And I go, yeah, because women didn't want to have their husbands prosecuted. They had to press charges, and they were like, there's no way I'm doing it. And this was pre-OJ, and cops couldn't arrest him if the woman didn't want to make a private person's arrest. And so the cops would say things like, hey, you want him arrested? No, I just want him to stop hitting me. Okay, we'll be right back. They'd take his ass out back, tune him up, and say, you touch your wife again, we're going to come out and give you that same thing twice as hard. And then he'd go back inside, and he'd have learned, don't touch his wife or the cops are going to come out and tune him up. And every woman I've talked to is like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
Then the lawyers got involved.
Yeah.
I mean, now you arrest him or they call you out there, and then they're like, "No, don't arrest him, and a fight ensues, and all this crazy shit, and then they come back pissed off, and then it's 10 times worse unless they get out of there, unless you get them help, they have to want the help. But yeah, it's just crazy. The cycle of violence is nuts. It's a beast.
That's a whole other show. So NYPD Through the Looking Glass podcast on Spotify, on Apple, on
YouTube.
All the places, YouTube, right? But while it's called NYPD Through the Looking Glass, you're saying you guys over the years have branched out past just the NYPD into other agencies and things of that nature, similar to the way we have.
Yeah, we've had I wouldn't say gangsters on, which would be freaking cool, but just we've had people who have come on who, well, I mean, he was on the FBI's most wanted list.
Yep.
I wouldn't call him a gangster, but he was high profile wanted.
Mhm.
And he was
Matt
on
Cox?
that.
Oh, Matt Cox.
No, I don't remember his name.
No,
but
I'd have to
he
go back and look.
ended
It
up
was
turning
awesome.
his life around, and now he owns like a bunch of wouldn't say, are they halfway houses? It's like helping people. Yeah, halfway houses.
Yeah.
The best way I could describe it is a halfway house.
Rehab halfway house.
Yeah, and he owns a bunch of them. He's solid dude. Very, very
So,
strange.
so you started this podcast recently, but you've been retired for 18 years. Did we lose? Oh, yeah. We've been retired for 18 years. So we like to start with, and that's why I said we're starting backwards. How did you get? Are you a legacy hire? Would you come from a long line of NYPD cops, or was your father a tradesman who said, "Don't be a cop," and you're like, "Sorry, Dad"?
Yeah, how'd you get into it?
My dad was a butcher. Since it's probably when I was 5 years old, I wanted to be an NYPD cop. I used to watch Adam 12 on TV when I was a little boy, and the Rockford Files and all the police shows, and then the French Connection movie came out and the 7-Ups. And when I was a little boy, around the corner from the movie theater was a police station.
Mm-hmm.
So when my mother would take me to see Herbie the Love Bug, I was fascinated with the police cars. I would walk up to the police cars and stare in there and look at the equipment. I would watch how the cops interacted in front of the station house, the way they would rest their hands on their guns, like the nightsticks. And so I want one of those. I want a gun, and I want to drive around in a police car. So probably by about the age of 10, my friends and I would sneak into the local post office and steal FBI wanted posters off the wall. And then we would start going around the neighborhood conducting manhunts. And there'd be some poor fucking guy trying to get a sandwich at a deli. And we're like holding up a wanted poster going like, that could be him. By 20, I took the exam, went into the police academy, did a 20-year career with the NYPD. I was in plain clothes 15 out of the 20 years, but I worked in a precinct in the South Bronx. I worked in a DUI unit, which I absolutely fucking hated. I got drafted into it, hated dealing with drunks.
How do you get a DUI in from the NYPD? There's nowhere you can't drive. It's all subway.
No, believe me. No, and well, in the old days, we didn't really mess with DUIs unless you were in the DUI unit. If you were on patrol, if you brought in a DUI, everybody would look at you like you were a total scumbag, and the desk officer would say, like, give this guy a summons and get him the fuck out of here. Tying up a car. Same was like before Giuliani with drugs. They didn't want the street level guys coming in with marijuana or crack. They'd get pissed off because especially if you're in a car for the night, you're taking a car off the street.
Mm-hmm.
That all changed when Rudy came in and we went to quality life, and then it was, battle royale. We could do whatever we wanted as far as making arrests. I worked in
Did anybody ever push back internally on stop and frisk? I was always curious.
Inside the department? No, not that I know of. That was the city council and all these do-gooders, attorneys, and the city council, and then you got de Blasio in there, and they basically did away with it.
Right.
Well, I was just curious. I was always curious because of the questions about constitutionality when it comes to stop and frisk that came up. I didn't know if there was ever an internal debate at NYPD about it, or if it was all external.
So, to my knowledge, it was external.
Anyway, so you always wanted to do it. You joined the NYPD, and I watched Adam 12 growing up. My dad worked for LAPD during that era. Like, I remember he wore that same uniform. Did you then, when you saw Hill Street Blues going on up, it was
sure,
like
yeah.
that was like all right now where we were like okay,
Every Thursday night.
yeah, stay safe out there.
Yeah,
Wow.
I love those shows. I mean, that I knew what I wanted to do when I was 5 years old, and
Right.
I got out of high school. I did not want to go to college. That I had no use for it, and there was that gap of 2 years where it was rough because my parents wanted me to work for the phone company or become an electrician or join the trades. I had no interest in that.
Right.
So my father said, all right, you got to work. You're going to live in the house. You got to work. So it was catch me if you can. I would go to work with one job and come back with another one. I unloaded trucks for UPS. I cleaned airplanes. I was an exterminator. I bullshitted my way into an exterminating company. So I just did like all these crazy jobs. And what the funny thing is when I was coming on the job, you had to put all this shit down for your investigator. And she hated it. She thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
Here's a guy 20 years old and he's got like 13 different jobs. Like she thought I was out of my mind. And I didn't get fired for stealing or doing anything stupid. So, they gave me a pass, but nowadays they would look at you like you're absolutely crazy.
Right. Like you can't settle down. Like you're going to come here and then you're going to want to leave. It's definitely a negative. Yeah. It's definitely a negative, connotation behind that, having that many jobs in that short period of time. I look at it as now talking to you, you just were trying to burn time to get to where you wanted to be. And you just wanted to find something that you actually like. And you don't know if you're going to like it unless you try it. And you tried it and you're like, I don't like it. Let's move on to the next one. I don't like that one. I just keep going.
Well, part of it too is I wanted to see if I could do it. You know what I mean? Okay. Like I went into an exterminating place and I lied and I told them that I worked at another exterminating place. So I was there and I figured it out. Like, how difficult can this be? And after about like 2 weeks, the guy was actually impressed because he had gone through a lot of guys that was stealing and shit. And one day he goes, I called up the other exterminating company you put down as a reference. He doesn't know who the hell you are. Who are you? And I says, oh, you're going to fire me now? And he goes, no. He goes, but you can't go around doing this. I go, why? It's just so simple. He goes, no. So I got he gave me like a half-hour training seminar, like use this road spray, put this rat poison down. And then, I was up and running.
That's freaking hilarious. So you got you got sent into that DUI checkpoint. Where'd you do after that? Or the DUI task force thing. What'd you do after that?
I absolutely hated it because it was all old timers. They were miserable. They were trying to phase them out. So what they did was they drafted a bunch of young guys and threw us in there. So you know how it is when you're a rookie cop. The old timers don't want to talk to you. And the old timers really didn't want to talk to us to help us because they knew they were getting phased out and they were putting us in there to put a fire under their ass. So, it's like figure it out, kid. They give you the car back with no gas in it. Like they're just doing stupid shit to fuck with you. So I says, I don't want to do this. So I went back to a precinct, made a shitload of arrests. I was always a car guy, always getting into car chases. Got put in an precinct level auto theft thing. Then I went into plain clothes, which was pickpocket. It's called anti-crime in the NYPD. It's not undercover, but you're in a precinct with an unmarked car with a sergeant and a couple of cops, and you're just responding to robberies in progress, burglaries, and you follow people around. You try to catch them before they commit the crime. And I did that for about 2 years, and everybody's telling me, you're going to put in for narcotics, right? You're going to put in for narcotics. So I put in for narcotics, and I wound up going to the Manhattan North Narcotics Division. This is like 93, which is in the throes of the crack epidemic. And that was like shooting fish in the barrel. We were just doing buy and bust 3-4 times a week, locking up crackheads, locking up heroin addicts. And then you debrief them and you try to buy up, get CIs or introduce your undercover to somebody in the organization.
Right. Do an intro. Did control deliveries where you dress up like a FedEx guy or a UPS guy, and customs hits on a package. They don't want it. They give it to us. We wrap the package back up. We dress up as a mailman or whatever, knock on the door. The guy signs for it. Field team comes in and knocks down their door. So did a lot of search warrants. But I was always a car guy. So went into the auto crime division, and that was the best 10 years of my life. It was chop shops, exporting stolen cars out of the country, changing vehicle identification numbers on cars for resale. And you got to remember, in the 90s, we were averaging 150,000 stolen cars a year. So it was like shooting fish in the barrel.
Well, those 90 cars are so easy to break into.
Oh yeah. The GMs with the steering, and you could with the old Toyotas, you could just with a screwdriver just punch the ignition.
Yeah, they're so easy to steal. Still like the number one, the number one most rated year or years for stealing cars is in the 90s. I mean, like they're so simple.
Yeah,
Still.
for sure.
Fun. Just the car chases. And like the dirty secret is the NYPD had a no chase policy, but we all chased. I mean, we all did it. The thing was, if you got into a car chase and you caught the bad guy and he didn't get hurt, no one else got hurt, no harm, no foul. No one's going to come looking for you. You get into a car chase and a civilian gets hurt, you wreck the police car, the bad guy gets hurt, then they're going to look to cut your balls off. But for the most part, they would turn a blind eye. And it was the funniest thing, right? So you would never put over you were chasing a stolen car. I'm following, like we would call it a 16 vehicle means stolen. I'm following a 16 vehicle. But, you know, if you and your buddy, I'm following a 16 vehicle, you can tell by the distance he's putting over the radio. Like these fucking guys are flying, you know, like that.
Right.
And you're hearing the car on 2 tires, you're hearing the siren. So then the sergeant, after a couple of minutes ago, you know, say you're in the 5-0 precinct, 5-0 sergeant, is that unit in pursuit? Now, he knows damn well you're in pursuit, but he's going through the thing. Then you got to worry about the Bronx duty captain or the Manhattan duty captain, depending on where the chase is going. He's going to call it off immediately. Then guys you start pretending like you don't hear him. I never agreed with this. Guys would start keying the mic and
That's some
stepping all over.
shit, right?
Yeah.
I can't, oh my God, dude, we did the same shit. Tom, did you do that shit? Because we did it.
I mean,
That exact stuff.
But here's the thing. I was at a smaller agency than either one of you. There was nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
The NYPD,
you knew everybody on duty in the city.
Oh, well, I'll just give you an example. So like in the Bronx, right? I worked in the Bronx. There's 12 precincts or police stations in the Bronx.
Whoa.
So, and they're broken down. Each radio division has, 3 or 4 on each. I used to laugh because I became a cop in a small police department down here, and the dispatcher couldn't handle one department with like 8 guys out there. Like NYPD, one dispatcher is juggling 3 precincts on a busy Friday night, and the fucking calls are coming in. So no one really, like if you went over the radio and you're giving a chase, nobody really know, unless the precinct would know or your buddies in the next precinct would know. And even if you fucked up in the NYPD and they'd bounce you, there was so many places. There's 77 precincts, 77 police stations. I mean, we had up to 45,000 members in the late 90s.
Yeah. Damn.
That's crazy. That's a lot. That's a lot. You're the NYPD is the biggest U.S. Police department. And then it goes Chicago and then it goes L.A. And I got to tell you, chasing cars in the middle of Los Angeles, in the middle of a fucking big city, that's just a recipe for disaster. There's so many pedestrians, so many vehicles, parked vehicles, you know, so many of those hills and stuff like that you can go flying over, lose bumpers. The easiest thing though is because it's set up on a grid, much like New York. You can be like, hey, is it going that way? Yeah. And you just follow the pieces of the vehicle.
It's just spread out so much further in LA though, man.
100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, way
crazy.
Way
so different. It's very different, right? Like New York still has foot beats and, you know, it's you know, so many people that are packed into such a small area versus like, I don't think I talked to somebody the other day and I said, you know, if you started in this city, you drove from this city, crossed the state lines and ended up at the airport on the other side of this city, that you'd still be in LA. And they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's big. So I get that it's a totally different style of policing for you guys. How was it? Like you worked a lot of different units. What was your favorite? Like this was the business for NYPD. Was it ESU or was it dope or was it like what?
No, auto crime, because we worked on a lot of interesting cases. I mean, we used to pick off for overtime the garden variety pain in the ass car thieves, and that's junkies that steal cars to get around, to get high and fall asleep. The teenagers that steal a car to get around and show off in front of their girlfriend. Then we started going after the chop shops, the junkyards. The junkyards in Brooklyn were all owned by the mafia. Well, not all, but a lot of them were owned by the mafia. And then we went after organizations that were shipping cars out of the country. I worked on a case. We had Chinese nationals out of a warehouse in Brooklyn that was shipping 30 Audi A6s a month to Shanghai.
Wow.
Damn.
So while we got a wiretap up on these Chinese guys out in Brooklyn, and there was a middleman, was a Jamaican from the Bronx, and his job was to farm out the car thieves. And he knew all these black and Spanish car thieves, and he was paying that. He was getting paid $5,000 an Audi, and he was paying the thieves between $500 and $1,000 an Audi. So they would steal an Audi A6 off the street, and the color had to be silver or black because we found out later it was going to government officials. They'd steal the Audis, park them on the street, let them cool off a day or two. This is the early beginnings of LoJack. So this is like 2000.
Oh my gosh.
They would take the cars out to Brooklyn. They'd bring them into this warehouse. Inside the warehouse, they had more Chinese nationals, and there'd be containers, shipping containers. Once the stolen cars would come in, the Asians would clean the cars out, like baby seats and shit, get them out, like make them in showroom condition, repair the ignitions, put them in a shipping container, let the air out of the tires so that the vehicle would sit low in the container. Then they'd build a wood frame above it and hoist a second Audi. So each shipping container contained 2 stolen Audi A6s. Whoa. Then what they would do is they'd make up a phony manifest, and they would have a legit shipping company come take the container out to Newark, New Jersey, which is right over the Hudson River, get put on a train, railed across the United States to Long Beach, California, put on cargo ships, and shipped out to Shanghai. So we've got this big international shipping case going. We've got in the NYPD with 45,000 members. We found Chinese cops that could speak Mandarin and Cantonese. Right. Then we had Spanish cops listen because all our thieves were Spanish and black listening to the wiretap.
Right.
What we figured out was, in addition to this international shipping case, our car thieves were in the murder for hire business. And they're talking about whacking this one and whacking that one. So when we finally took that case down, we probably cleared about 15 or 16 homicides.
Shit.
Wow.
Just
taking down that.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Crazy. Is that where you became a detective out of that?
I was a detective before that case, but I was in the auto crime. But you know who ran that case? That was a joint case with the Westchester County DA's office. And you know who the DA was? Judge Janine Pirro.
Oh, geez.
So I'll tell you what, I like her. She's got balls like a man.
I was going to say
her detectives that worked for her were kind of afraid of her because she was very demanding, but like she couldn't do anything to us. So we would go up to White Plains and we'd be sitting in a row. We'd go up there once a week for a meeting. So I was one of the guys that would go up on these meetings, and she would come in like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I liked her. Like she's got a lot of balls.
Right.
Well, I respect the hell out of any woman who can go after, the crooks like she could. So auto theft, I mean, I never thought of, I guess it's a different, auto theft to me was always a property crime, right? Like it was, like we worked closely with, I remember working dope. We'd work closely with auto theft because a lot of times if you're running dope, you're running all kinds of other stuff, right? But also because of the amount of stolen cars that would be then used to put, narcotics in, smuggle in, compartments, and they use it as compartment cars, and just, and they'd have all. So we'd get a compartment car, we'd take it to the Highway Patrol's auto theft task force. Those guys knew how to take cars apart and tell you.
We used to do that too. People would call us all the time for traps. All the time we would get calls. I stopped this car. The dog hit on it. We can't find it. Yeah, and in New York, I mean, they were so elaborate with the traps. Some of them were on pistons. Like we had one guy with a trap. One guy, I mean, it was an easy one, but it was like a Ford Aerostar van with like the sliding door. And when you remember the old school, like the headlights was like the little button you would push with your left foot.
Yes.
That was on a cable that was a spring. So when you stepped on that, it popped the contain. So like when you go into a step-in van, you got that step, it popped open, and we got a couple of keys on that one. But that was a CI told us about that one.
Nice. Wow.
That was one of those ones like we did. You had to press the brake, put the key into accessory, and tap the defroster 4 times.
There was no rhyme or reason to the way they would wire it. Exactly. Put it in reverse.
Yes, it was so weird. Anyway,
and in New York, in addition to that, they changed. In New York, it was a huge business with changing the vehicle, and this is before cloning. So what they would do in New York is guys would go to salvage auctions, insurance. So you wreck your car, the insurance company takes possession of your car, they cut you a check, you go on your way and you buy a new car. Well, what happens to that car? That car goes to an auto auction, and secondhand dealers and used car dealers go to those auctions, but aspiring car thieves go to those auctions. They get a secondhand dealer's license. They'll buy a car that was like hit by a fucking train or burned. It's a shell. They're buying it for that title and whatever VIN numbers they can get off that car. And then what they do is they bounce that title through several states to wash the title to get their name off it. And then what they'll do is they'll steal a car. But a lot of them are stupid. They don't steal year for year, model for model, color for color. And they'll take all the VIN numbers off that salvage and tag. That's what we used to call it, tagging, and put the vehicle and then roll the car out and sell it. So we used to pick off those cars all the time.
Damn.
Yeah, we got some training through like Bad Cats and stuff like that on the job, and I had stuff for trap and stuff, phone numbers and things like that. They're like, if it looks off, give us a call. And there's a couple of times that we got some cars off. Generally, it was off of rappers and stuff because we worked LA, so a lot of them were rappers and shit. And you'd be like, I'm gonna check your VIN number real quick because shit seems off, right? And you're looking at the VIN number, you're like, you gotta step out. All right, I'm gonna check this one. I'm gonna check the engine block number. I'm gonna check this, and you're like, it's not adding up. And you call these dudes out. You're like, oh nope, it's for sure. Take it, hold it, and arrest that dude. And it was, you find a lot of cars that way, because a lot of them are stupid and they don't change engine numbers.
Oh, our guys were like Swiss watchmakers. Like they would cut like on foreign cars. You got a full firewall, 17 character firewall stamped into the firewall. Our guys would either obliterate it, right? Bondo it, paint it, and restamp, and it would look good. But if you went behind it with a mirror, you could see the old ones. Or sometimes they would fucking take that out, cut it out with a Sawzall, and tack weld the salvage, and it down and paint it. So you get behind there, and you're like, well, it looks good, but then you're like, the weld. They welded a new firewall in, and you take the car.
Damn.
Wow, that's
crazy. That's
intense, man. Holy crap. Yeah, I've never got to do anything cool like that. Was a part of a chop shop raid, but and I was the lead person. I was the person who took the initial report, and it led into something. A bunch of different moving parts led into it, and then next thing you know, an hour later, big ass chop shop ring gets busted, and but that was it. I never got to do anything cool like that. That's really awesome. I mean, it sounds like a really interesting time. It almost sounds like that show The Wire, because you're talking about wires and all this stuff led into like murders and stuff like that. Like you find so many crazy things that happen on those wires, and it turns into from a simple chop shop ring and stealing stolen cars to freaking all around organized crime.
Right.
Sadly, we used to say whenever we would go up on a wire, a cop would wander onto the playing field. Sometimes out of stupidity, and sometimes he was a bad guy. Hanging around these guys, like that case I told you about with the guys doing the hits, the cars going to China. There were a couple of cops that worked in an NYPD Bronx precinct, and they were hanging out with these guys, riding around on motorcycles, guys, big bike guys. And when they would blow an engine or fuck up the fairings on their bike, their buddies, the thieves, would get them new parts. But what they would do in return is when these thieves saw a car that they wanted to steal and it wasn't the right time to steal it, they'd get the plate. They'd give it to these two cops in the Bronx. The cops would run the plate, and then they would tell them where to find the car. But the cops thought they were slick. What they would do is, right, like in NYPD, you got the mobile digital computers. So let's just say it's me and my partner. We're the bad guys, all right? And you two are working together, and we go up and we go up on a call or something, and I'd say, Chuck, I don't have a 61 to report. Throw me the keys to your car. I'm going to go downstairs. You got a 61 in your car? Yeah. He would go into your car, turn on the car, and if you left the MDT in, he'd run the plate in your terminal, get the address of the person whose car they wanted to steal. So, they got fired. They should have gotten locked up. The DA didn't want to prosecute, but they got fired.
Wow. That's intense. I mean, oh man, we had a dumbass doing some crazy shit in our department who was going in pursuits off duty in his Challenger because he had his radio and doing some dumb shit. And then he got fucking bounced to actually one of the first division I ever worked. He got bounced there, and then we started running plates over because he got stuck on desk duty. He started running plates on the desk, and then lied about it. Got fired. Then they bounced him to. Then he got bounced out. Got fired. He actually ended up getting on in Chicago. He's actually a really good dude. He was just doing dumb shit and lying about it. But he got picked up at Chicago, became a Chicago dispatcher, and was you remember that Chicago cop that got gunned down on duty a while back, maybe like 4 years ago, a female, 3 years ago. Well,
Yeah.
she got gunned down in her car on duty, and because of him, they were able to locate the suspect because he put out a grid and a perimeter like he got taught on the art department, and was able to set it up through dispatch and get everybody locked down because he was so used to doing it. And I was like, oh, at least he's using his shit for good now instead of doing dumb stuff. I don't know what it was for, but he got fired before they really investigated or anything like that. But so Tom, do you want to get into his books? Because they're pretty.
So that was going to be my next, because you guys were so excited. So I wanted to talk about. It's not just a podcast, though. You according to what I'm reading, have written. Is it 4?
9.
No.
9.
Yeah, dude, they're
9
all
books.
right here.
You got them all, Chuck?
Yeah. You want to read them off?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one's NYPD Behind the Blue Wall of Silence. The next one is NYPD Laughing in the Line of Duty. The next one is NYPD's Flying Circus, Cops, Crime, and Chaos. NYPD Law and Disorder. NYPD Through the Looking Glass. I think that's where you got your podcast name through.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Grand Theft Auto, the NYPD's Auto Crime Division. Then NYPD Presumption and Dysfunction. Hey, Tom, you're gonna like this one. Dickheads and Debauchery.
I mean, it's like Joseph Wambaugh writing the Choir Boys, right? It's about the same. Yeah.
No, that was my first book. Is before I got into writing about my police career.
Dickheads and Debauchery.
Oh, Dickheads and Debauchery sounds like it's a police book.
I guess it's not. Yeah, no, it's funny though. It looks the imagery on the front is great. And then the last one on this is all on Amazon.com. Confessions of a Catholic High School Graduate.
Damn.
Yeah, I average a book a year. It keeps me busy.
Yeah, I guess. How did you said the first one was not a police book. So how did you decide to write
I was bored. I retired from the NYPD. I came down to Florida. I started with the small police department down here, but like the game had passed me. So here I am, 42 years old, retired. I'm a detective. I was a detective in America's largest police department. And now I'm back on the road. I'm dealing with drunks. I'm dealing with DUIs, which that was the big thing down here in Florida. They wanted to lock up drunks. And it was like a bad episode of Reno 911. And I said, you know what? I'm not fucking doing this anymore. So I retired. And I says, you know what? Maybe my friend said, you should really write a book. And I says, who the hell gives it? Who wants to know? He goes, but you got all these funny stories. You should start writing them. So I started writing the NYPD books, and they started selling. The reviews started coming in, and it's just kind of taken off from there. I never believed it. That's why I write under the name Vic Ferrari. And I never thought in a million years I'd be putting myself out here and doing interviews. But then that was another thing. Once I got the books out, I realized if I want these books to sell, you got to sell yourself. And if people see you and you can tell an interesting story, they might take a chance on your book. And then also doing that for new authors out there, it helps with search engine optimization. If you type in my name in Google, Vic Ferrari, there's going to be a million interviews I've done. I've probably done, I don't do as many as I used to, but I've probably done about 200 podcast and radio interviews. So it helps that when someone's looking, who is that guy? And they look it up. Oh, look, he's got books. So it helps with that.
Nice. You wrote a book called The Flying Circus. Was that during the time that NYPD had all those, it was like everybody was leaving in droves because everything was getting so fucked up on the department, or was that prior to that?
No, that was prior to that. Like my books, they're not novels. There's no beginning, middle, end. They're all loaded with short stories of things that happened to me during my career or things that happened to my friends that I think are funny or interesting. So for argument's sake, I'll pick a chapter from one of my books, Crossing Over to the Dark Side. And that was cops that I work with that got themselves in trouble, went bad, or just the ridiculous things guys that I work with got themselves into. I changed the names, the dates, the locations, the precincts, because I don't want to get too close to the target. I don't want to embarrass anybody, and I don't want to get sued.
Right.
I move things around a little bit, but it just each chapter is short stories about things that happened during my career.
So
Nice.
do you pick a theme? Like, so give us, I'll tell you, this is what I'm curious about. So the short stories you write, this is what this show's about. We got a little bit of time left. Give us one of your favorite ones that people could find in your books.
I'll tell you the Hansel and Gretel story. It happened to my old partner. Early 90s, going out to cop bars, meeting girls, and several precincts would go to this bar. So this guy, who was a friend of mine, worked with another cop who in his spare time was an amateur magician.
Okay.
So we're at the bar talking to girls. The magician would come over and start pulling the flowers out of his sleeve, pulling the coins behind the ears. Essentially, he's cock blocking us with magic. So I turned to his partner. I go, get this fucking guy out of here. How do you compete? And he says, he's the laziest cop in the world. He says, but he says, he picks up girls all the time with this act. So anyway, a couple of weeks later, those two are working at midnight. They get called out to a basement apartment, 6-story walk up, calls for help. Now, this is before 911 would pinpoint it to an apartment. They go into this basement, and in these basements in New York, you've got usually a couple of apartments, and one is occupied by the superintendent of the building who lives there for free. He does the furnace, he puts the garbage out, shit like that. So there's 2 doors. They go to door number 1, they bang on the door. No one answers. My buddy goes to bang on door number 2, and the magician, who doesn't want to do his job, says, come on, let's get out of here. And he goes, no, I'm going to knock on the door. And he goes, come on. We got our radios on, our nightsticks, our keys. If someone's down here, they would have heard us. They would have come out already.
Right.
He goes, come on, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. So my buddy goes, okay, and they leave. What they didn't realize is behind door number 2, the super was selling coke out of the apartment. Wait. And he fell behind. He got addicted. And he fell behind in his payments. So you guys know in the drug world, they don't cancel your cable or send threatening letters. They send a couple of guys down there. Now, he knew he had a problem, and he wasn't coming to the door. So they did an old gypsy trick. They brought an attractive female. Knock on the door, put the girl's face in front of the door. The super gets a boner. He figures, oh, this is some cokehead. I'm going to get a blowjob. He opens the door. They bum rush him, right? They get into the apartment. They start pistol whipping him. Where's the money? Where's the drugs? He ain't got it. So they shoot him in the head a couple of times. They roll him up in a carpet. They take him out of the apartment. They throw him in the furnace. So while he's going up like a Puerto Rican fire log, they go back into the apartment, and they're tossing the apartment. Now the cops are outside, and they're about to knock on the door. So they were Albanians. So all 3 of them. So the guys told the female, who's in on this? They go, listen. These fucking cops knock on the door. Now you got to commit, right? They go, if these fucking cops knock on the door, open the door, start yelling in Yugoslavian, and point to the kitchen. So it was a railroad apartment that goes straight back with apartments on rooms on the side. He goes, just march them into the kitchen. When you get past the threshold of the bedroom, throw yourself on the floor. We'll come out and we'll fucking shoot the cops in the head. We'll throw them in the furnace and get the fuck out of here.
Holy shit.
Well, they never knocked on the door, and they leave. Well, the super's got family. A week or 2 goes by. No one has seen him. They call the detectives. They file a missing persons report. And the only thing they got is the neighbors of the building, the residents of the building, like, yeah, there was a lot of traffic down there, so they know something's not right. And they said, well, they pull the 911, and they go, well, there was a call down there about a week ago. So they bring in the magician and my old buddy, and they go, what happened? And they go, well, we knocked on door number 1. We didn't knock on door number 2. I'm like, all right. But my buddy said, you know what? When we were leaving and we came out into the street, there was a car parked on a hydrant, and I gave it a parking ticket. Because in NYPD, there is a quota system. You got to write your parking tickets. We can get into that. So he banged his fucking car with a parker parked on the hydrant. That car, that summons, that was the getaway car that was registered to the female. They bring her in. She starts backpedaling, of course, trying to distance herself. In for a penny, in for a pound. She gives up the 2 Albanian hitmen. They bring them in. They get a confession. They had to go back to that building in February and shut the fucking heat off for like 2-3 days until that furnace really cooled down to get his skull and bones out of there. So that's a story in one of my books, and it's called Last Night a Magician Saved My Life, because had not been for the magician, they would have wound up in the furnace too.
Holy fuck.
Damn.
NYPD. Okay, so I told you that my cousin JJ, he was a lieutenant or a captain. I think he made captain before he retired and moved down to Florida too. On NYPD. Now my uncle Tommy, God rest his soul, he was on NYPD for a short stint before he followed a chick out to California, and he told me and my dad the craziest fucking story. And I was like, that's bullshit. No way that happened. After you telling me that story, 100% believe it.
There you go.
That shit's wild. I mean, holy shit. I mean,
guys, we could talk. I was just not as violent, but just to give any, I could do this all day long. I was just telling the story the other day. It just came to me. I was in auto crime. Major case narcotics calls us up and says, we got a CI that knows about some guy in Harlem DMV that's pumping out driver's licenses. Would you guys be interested? Yeah, we'll talk to him. Pouring rain out. We get in the car with these two narcotics major case guys. We pick up the CI in Manhattan. We take him to the Bronx. Tells us the layout. We're working it out. We're going to introduce our undercover. We're going to go to DMV. We're going to lock these people up. Okay, great. We bring him back into Manhattan. It's pouring rain. He throws on his hoodie, and we're underneath an elevated train in the middle of nowhere, and he walks off. So the narcotics guy's like, what do you think? We're thanking them. Thank you for sharing the information. Yeah, we're going to work with him. The narcotics guy's phone rings. One of his phones rings. He picks up the phone, and he goes, yeah, I see him. And as he's on the phone, a guy walks, it's pouring rain. A guy walks past our car with like a slicker on, like a rain poncho. And he looks at the delivery guy. He's carrying like it looked like he was carrying fucking Chinese food. He's carrying a plastic bag all wrapped up. And he goes, okay. And he gets off the phone. He goes, listen, that was the CI. He just passed a guy that that's to describe Washington Heights. It's like a big drugstore up there. He goes, that guy's a courier. Our CI knows him. He's taking that package somewhere. He's got at least a brick of Coke in there. Would you guys mind hanging around helping us grab? I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do this, right? So we're following him with the car. He goes into a Pathmark parking lot, goes up to the back of goes to the back of a Honda Accord, opens up the back seat, gets inside. He's in that thing like 15 seconds, gets out and walks off. So I go, you want me to follow him? And they go, no, the CI will let us know who he is. He goes, and we don't want to burn the CI because maybe they saw each other in the street. He goes, we just want the bricks. I said, all right. We fucking get this car stopped. It was a black guy and a black girl from Trenton, New Jersey. So we got him out of the car. It was 2 kilos of Coke. And the two major case guys are just looking at it like they're disgusted. And they go, do you guys want this? Like, do you guys want to take the collar? And I go, fuck it, I'll take it. And my sergeant goes, we're already on overtime. Our lieutenant's going to cut our balls off if we take this. Why? And he goes, our lieutenant only wants us to take like 5 kilos or more on a stop, right? The two perps are handcuffed in the street and they go, I can't believe this shit. You two motherfuckers are arguing about who's going to take us to jail. So, I mean, shit like that used to happen all the time.
Oh my God.
Damn right. It was the Wild Wild West. And that's the same era, Chuck. You remember? So it was an interesting thing that people don't, I think, know about, but same like in LA when Daryl Gates was dealing with the Crips and the Bloods and the gang war and the drug problem and all that stuff. They were building those cages inside the vestibule of the door, right? They were basically taking the metal door screens that they would put on the outside of the ghetto doors, and they were putting them on the inside with a mail slot. And then they were building a cage out of wrought iron fencing as a sally port, right? So you could step into the sally port and sell dope out the gate, but the gate was on the inside. So you'd open the front door, there'd be the gate, you'd hand your money, you'd take your dope, you'd go. It was all designed to thwart them from getting ripped off and from the cops from making entry on a search warrant. And so Daryl Gates goes, well, fuck them, go through the wall, and literally authorized the search warrant teams to punch a hole in the side of the house
like
so that they
opening. That's like the opening scene in NWA. Where the sheriff's department punched the fucking punch the hole in the door with the
And so
APC.
that is an actual,
On the
like,
wall.
that's what they used to do. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, Vic Ferrari, ladies and gentlemen. I feel so like Hollywood saying that. Vic Ferrari, ladies and gentlemen. Vic Ferrari has the NYPD Through the Looking Glass podcast, and he's an author of not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 9 books, 7 of which are about NYPD experiences and 2 are not. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
There you go. And Vic, we always like to give our guests a chance to dedicate their episode to someone. I understand you have a dedication.
Yeah, I worked with a guy in the 50 precinct in the Bronx. Great guy. His name was Vincent Cadiz. He was killed in the line of duty in 1996. Went to a domestic violence call. They went to lock this guy up. A mirror broke in the apartment, and when they were trying to wrestle with this guy, a shard of glass got him in the femoral artery, and sadly, he passed of a heart attack later that night. Great guy.
Damn. That's terrible. I mean, you hear about that kind of thing can happen, but like,
That's crazy.
so, well, rest easy, brother. We've got it from here. And Vic, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a blast. I like East Coast cop stories because, again, being raised West Coast cop, like, I don't know that people understand that there are really different subcultures in law enforcement in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it comes to West Coast, East Coast, but there's a Midwest, there's definitely a South, and then don't even talk about Florida cops. That's a whole other thing.
That's just wild.
So Vic, I mentioned this when we were talking. So one of the things that I had to overcome consistently was when I would talk to I retired from law enforcement, worked with Matt, movie business, we're doing stuff. And I had clients, they would come to me and they go, so I need the police officer badges, and then I need something different for detectives, and I need something. And I said, where's this at? And they go, well, it's, the police department in California somewhere. And I was like, well, then you just need the same badge over and over and over. Like, what do you mean? We need a different badge for detectives, and we need this, and we need that. I'm like, they don't do that. Like,
no, it just says
like,
detective or sergeant.
doesn't have a different badge for their detectives. I said they do. It's the badge that says detective across the top,
and sergeant and lieutenant
and sergeant,
and captain, and
but other than that,
inspector, chief,
right?
On and on and on.
Yeah, and I mean, the inspector ones don't. Like, policeman doesn't exist, policewoman doesn't exist, inspector doesn't. Those are all like, if you find those antique badges, man, keep them. They don't. Those ranks don't even exist anymore. And they
can pass them down, but that's like there's
because you own it
alive.
Right?
Yeah.
My dad was issued a policeman badge, and then but he promoted to sergeant. I said, why didn't you keep the policeman badge? He goes, I was too busy being a sergeant. I didn't give a shit about being a policeman anymore, and I didn't know they were going to change the badge, and it was going to be a damn collector's item. So anyway, it was pretty funny. But that I thought you would find that interesting, Chuck, because Vic knows what I'm talking about. That whole idea of changing badges when you change ranks is a very East Coast and specifically NYPD thing. And then you get to other agencies, their badges might change color, but you typically don't actually change shape and style. And then you get to an agency like LAPD where they don't even have shoulder patches. And then I tell that to people, they're like, what? And I go, yeah, LAPD doesn't wear
only BDUs
on their sleeve unless you're a motor cop.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? And then I show them pictures like, holy shit, I never noticed. And I said, you know why that is? And they said, no. And I said, because the LAPD's opinion is always, you know where the fuck you are. I've got a gun and a badge. You know who the fuck I am. I don't need a patch on my sleeve that tells you.
Well, I'll tell you something quick about the shield. So when you get promoted to the NYPD, we hire in bulk and we promote in bulk. Right. So when you're getting promoted, it might be 50 cops becoming detectives.
Right.
20 captains becoming deputy inspectors, 15 lieutenants. So it's usually a couple of hundred people at a promotion, right? So you got to go down to one police plaza, which is a pain in the balls for your family because there's no parking. So say the ceremony's at 10. They want you down there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then there's some jerk off that's like Dudley Do-Right from the ceremonial unit. And you need a haircut. You need a shave. Get a new belt. get new white gloves, and you got like 2 or 3 hours to get it done, and you're not getting promoted, right? So once you clear that hurdle, you go into a room, and I'm not making this up. You go into a room, there's a leaf table set up, and they've got these molds. And you walk in, and they'll go, name, Ferrari. Tax, you give me a tax. Give me a shield. You hand them your old shield. They put it in a mold, a special mold to make sure it's not a dupe. They put it in there, and then they take it and throw it in a fucking box, and they hand you a new shield. It was the most. It was like you see in a movie, like a guy going to a prostitute. He just took my shield off that I had for 10 years and threw it in a fucking box.
Yes, because
there was a guy 2 people in front of me. They put his shield in the mold. It didn't fit. They pulled him off the line. He didn't get promoted. He lost 30 vacation days. So what guys will do is
they'll wear their dupe, replica and turn it in as
they'll go and buy a dupe and wear the dupe. So if they lose the dupe, they still got their real shield. They won't get a rip. He forgot to switch it.
I'll tell you, Chuck, that I may have had a loophole because we were allowed to buy flat badges for our wallets. And so you would have your uniform badge, regular curved LAPD style badge. And then you could get a flat version of it, exact same size, only just not curved. And it would go in your wallet. You could wear it and carry it around with you and whatever. So when I came on the department, a older, more seasoned officer with hash marks that went from his wrist to his elbow may have said to me, hey kid, you know, the badge you're wearing right now is the one you graduated with and you earned. He says, the badge you buy, who gives a shit? And I said, okay. And he goes, you know, they never look at the application when you fill it out, when it says, do you want a curved badge or a flat badge, right? And I went, what? And he goes, yeah, they never check. So I checked curved badge, just like he had done. And when my flat badge showed up, it was a full uniform curved badge, identical to the one I wore on my uniform. So I left that badge in my locker in case I ever forgot my badge. And then when I retired and they asked for their badge back, they got their badge back. And then I kept the one I bought.
Nice. I'm still waiting on my badges.
Looks identical to the one they gave me when I graduated.
Nice.
Anyway, Vic, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
We'd love to have you on. And what do you think? You think so, Vic? We do this. We do when we release an episode, we then Chuck and I will go live on YouTube with our co-hosts, Matt, who's a friend of ours, who's a Navy veteran and a prison veteran, and then our friend Marco, who has never served or has never been a cop or anything like that. So he's kind of our like, hey guys, I found this video of cops doing shit or the military doing shit on the internet, and I need to know if this is real. He's our guy. But we like to go live, and then now we've been we release an episode with an interview, and then we go live that evening and talk about it. And most recently, as you could have heard us talking about, we had Senior Chief Ty Smith as a guest on our live show the same day his episode dropped. We can talk about it off the air, but we would love to have you come back for that.
Yeah. Just give me the heads up when it's going to be.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And Chuck, why don't you take us home?
Well, thank you so much, Vic Ferrari. You can find all of his books on Amazon. And his books, just like we mentioned, I'm going to click into this real quick. I know I might mess this up real quick, but Behind the Blue Wall of Silence, Laughing in the Line of Duty, the NYPD's Flying Circus, NYPD's Law and Disorder, and more. Get him on Amazon. And then check his podcast out, NYPD Through the Looking Glass podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you all today for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on Instagram at @war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. If you're already following us, really appreciate it if you could share a post and help spread the word. You can also check the link out in our bio on both platforms to find all of our social media, our media links, and our website. Our podcast is available on all major streaming platforms, including YouTube. On YouTube, make sure to hit the notification bell, like, subscribe, all that funky mumbo jumbo. It also will let you know whenever we go live, because sometimes it's on a Wednesday or a Thursday or whenever, but we try to keep Wednesday and Thursday. But if we go live on a different day and you want to know and you want to be, notified of that, click that notification bell. If you would like to support us, head over to our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com. You can grab some merch. We are switching that to a drop ship here very shortly, and there will be more stuff available. That's soon to come, and it looks sick. We saw some Movie City.
I can't wait.
Oh yeah, it's dope. It's a lot of puns and stuff like that. It's going to be really cool. We have Whoopi hoodies and shirts and patches and stickers and stuff like that available to grab while the supplies last. And once it's gone forever. Do you have a story to tell, or you know someone who does? We're always looking for law enforcement, veterans, corrections officers, dispatchers, firefighters, medics, ER docs, and ER nurses to feature on the show. If you're interested, email us at booking.warstories@gmail.com. I will then forward you over to Dylan, or go straight to the source, linkedin.com/War Stories podcast, and share your story there with Dylan. We'd love to have you on. And if you know someone who would be a great fit, give them that info, and please send them our way. Also, check us out on TikTok at www.tiktok.com/War Stories Locker Room. And then the producer Dylan, his LinkedIn, the War Stories podcast. Thank you for the support. Stay safe out there.
And until our next episode, come home with your shield or on it.